This video will show you 3 ways to ascend your consciousness. I'm going to share with you ways to do that, things that make it really easy to do so that you're able to feel better a majority of the time and to see things from a much higher perspective. Welcome back to another video. My name is Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now, on this video, we're going to be talking about consciousness. We're going to be talking about how we can transcend our level of consciousness so that we feel better a majority of the time. Now, I would say a big change in my life happened when I learned meditation. Now, this video isn't going to be just about meditation, but I just want to explain to you what is possible when you learn how to transcend your level of consciousness. And you really start to take this work as something that can be very true for you. Now, I learned meditation back in 2012, and when I learned, it took me a couple times before I really started to get benefit out of it. But I remember that I kind of just, in a split moment, I was sitting there and I was learning meditation. The main reason I wanted to learn it was because I knew that there were no side effects of meditation and that it could help me focus more, because I, at the time, thought that I had ADHD, so I had to take Adderall for it, which had very harsh side effects. So what I did is I learned meditation, and I remember that in a split second, I sat down to meditate. I just decided and chose that this was going to change my life. I remember I just had that like little split awareness that this is going to change my life. And it took about 2 or 3 times before I really started to feel into it. But I remember what happened is I started to feel completely different after I learned how to observe my thoughts rather than react. And over the course of maybe the next maybe week or 2, I started to feel really good a majority of the time. Now, I thought this was too good to be true because I started to just feel good all the time. I didn't need to do anything. I didn't need to drink. I didn't need to change my state with anything other than just breathing and focusing on my breath. And as I did that, what I found was that my natural set point started to shift. Now, on average, I'd say I felt like I was on about a 4 or 5 out of 10 at the time that I learned the meditation. Like, I could feel good. I would have spikes to where sometimes I'd feel like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. I'd start to feel better if I was with friends or I was doing something. However, a majority I'd probably be at about a 4 or 5 out of 10. What happened was after I learned meditation, after I learned it and started having this higher level awareness, because I started to almost like allow the space within me, I started to feel like I was at about a 7 out of 10. I started to feel good, and I would spike at 8 or 9s and have these really, good feelings of just feeling at one with everything and allowing the moment to be, and no anxiety. It was such a different space. And I remember that after reading about it, or after feeling it and actually experiencing it, I was reading online, I was like, is this feeling going to go away? I was almost like I thought that it was going to go away and I wasn't going to be able to feel it again, or it just wasn't going to be permanent. But what happened was it became permanent. It became something that was my natural state of being. Now I feel good a majority of the time. Of course, there's still spikes to where I might go up to, an 8 or a 9 or a 10, and there might be lows to where I dip down a little bit, depending on where my focus is and what I'm doing at the moment. But that became my natural state, and now it is who I am, so I don't think twice about it. So it's like almost, it kind of just started to settle down because it became my norm, and it became something I was used to, whereas before it was like a spike, and I was like, whoa, I feel really good, and I couldn't figure out why. Now, first off, let me say, I'm not saying this is enlightenment. This is a higher level of awareness that I think every single person can tap into. Enlightenment, I think, isn't necessarily practical for everybody. I don't think it's practical for me. I think that there's a lot of things I want to teach in my life. There's a lot of things I want to do. I don't even really focus on enlightenment. However, what I am saying is that there's a higher level of awareness that you can begin to tap into that can completely transform your life if you allow yourself to open up the space within you for it. Now, the first thing that you can do in order to get to this level of enlightenment, this level of awareness, is learning how to drop all positionalities. Now, what this means is that you drop the perspectives that hold you down to the lower levels of consciousness. Now, this is what I learned because I realized I had a lot of limiting beliefs that I just bought into. I bought into the belief that I had to go to a doctor to get Adderall to then somehow cure me of my ADHD. I became aware of that perspective before I even learned a lot of this stuff on metaphysics and understanding how thoughts shape our reality and how beliefs create our reality. I was aware that that perspective, I could look at it and be like, wow, it's something I just believed. And I had a belief that I had to drink a certain amount of time, and I had a belief that I had to do this or I had to do that. And I learned how to let go of all of those things, and I saw them as beliefs. I saw them kind of in front of my face, and I had a positionality, I had a perspective that said that I must do this to feel this certain way. Now, to drop all positionalities means that we let go of the lower emotions. Now let me show you guys this scale. I've showed it many times before. I love showing it because it gives us a linear interpretation of what we must do in order to transcend the lower levels of consciousness. But look at the scale, you'll notice that there's lower emotions on the bottom, such as shame, fear, and guilt. And as you move up, you get more towards anger, which is like where we start to take our power back, even though it seems like a negative thing. Then we eventually get up to willingness, neutrality. Neutrality is where I ended up after I learned to meditate, because neutrality, then you see all of those lower perspectives for what they are. Neutrality means you can observe your thoughts rather than react. If you can observe a thought coming into your mind, you're then not reacting to it. And because of that, it's much easier to let go of that positionality, to let go of that perspective, so that you're not in the thought loop. Now understand that anytime we have perspectives, they go in a thought loop. They continue to run themselves out because on average, we think 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Over 90% of them are recycled from the day before, which means our minds are just constantly on autopilot. So what we must do is learn how to transcend out of this level of awareness. And then what we do is we begin to neutralize it. Then as we let go of all the lower baggage, that's where we start to gain, we start to exist in this higher level awareness, and that's where we can choose to be at more of unconditional love. We can be more at willingness, acceptance. Then you get into the higher levels, which is like joy, peace, and those emotions as well, and those states of being. So we can transcend all of these by simply being aware of our state of being and how to drop the positionalities to say that this is where I am. If you find that you are in any way giving and mad at somebody else, you must drop that positionality by forgiving them, by forgiving yourself, by having and just realizing that everything in life is fundamentally sort of an opinion. It's a perspective, and we could choose to let it go by shifting it and by forgiving someone else. Forgiveness will let go of all those lower emotions. Forgive yourself, forgive other people. Realize that at the fundamental level, people will always make decisions based on their own level of consciousness, and knowing that makes it so much easier because you see that they're coming at it from their own frame of reference. We see it from more their point of view. Maybe they were treated a certain way when they were younger and they felt like they had to steal in order to get what they wanted, so then they stole from you. You know, that's how you take away the personal perspective of it. You can still have discernment, but you aren't judging it the same way. You aren't emotionally involved in it and carrying that pattern around with you. Now, the second thing you can do to transcend your level of consciousness is to simply change your state of being. Now, in general, that scale that I showed you, if you start to drop those lower emotions, you will start to change your state of being. But when you become more aware that the one thing you always have the ability to control isn't the outer circumstances, it is the way that you respond to those outer circumstances. This means that you can choose to feel however you want, regardless of what is happening. Now, it sounds like it's like fairy tale land, right? Like, oh, I'm just pretending to be happy. You're not pretending to be happy. You're just choosing to derive a positive meaning out of anything that happens, even if it appears to be negative. Now let me give you this new interpretation of positive and negative. Normally we think of something that is positive as being good, and something as negative as being bad. Let's drop bad and good from this understanding, and let's bring it more to this. There is good. Instead of that, think of positive as integrative and connective. Think as negative instead of bad as separating, as segregative. When you use those interpretations, you see that any circumstance in your life that you are associating with and you are integrating into your life is a positive situation, which means a negative thing could happen, but you can give it a positive meaning. You can integrate it into your life and choose for it to be something positive, and it will transform into something positive. If you think it's something negative, you will think that it separates you from your life, separates you from other people, therefore you will get a negative type experience. So the key to this is having that awareness of what we define onto things, because there's that saying that it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whatever it is, if you think it's positive, you think it's negative, that is what it will be. So become aware of what that is and increase your own state of being by knowing that you can always respond to any circumstance in a way that you choose. Now you can also find activities that allow you to feel that high state of being. So it could be something as simple as you taking a bath. It could be something as simple as you reading a book that elevates your emotion, inspires you. It could be you doing your passion, what brings you into a flow state. Right now I'm doing this video, I'm in a flow state and I feel really good while I do it. So it sets my body and tells me, hey, do more of this. This is what you enjoy doing. That's why I create a video every single day, at least 1 or 2 videos a day. So start to focus on these things and be aware of how you feel and how you can increase your state of being. The more you make it about your state of being than the external circumstances is the more you will evolve your level of consciousness, and you'll allow yourself to then raise to a higher state of being. Now, the third thing you can do for this is to start to see everything as a reflection of one. Now, this is a deeper level of awareness, but I became aware that everything outside of me is a reflection of me. Now, me, I'm not talking from the ego perspective, I'm talking from a deeper level of awareness, that I realize that I am an immortal spiritual being having a temporary human experience, and I believe that you are as well. That when we come to earth, we forget this about ourselves. We forget that we had to, in a way, forget who we are to be here. And because of that, then part of life becomes waking up to that, And a lot of times, many of us may have gone through very emotional trauma growing up, very negative things. But guess what? That causes pressure so that we then come out of it and we remember who we are. I went through a lot of pain growing up. I used to get beat by my ex-stepmom. I used to go through a lot of emotional trauma from it, a lot of manipulation, and I thought it was a very negative thing. And from about the age of 8 to 15, that was my life experience. You know, I was forced to work. I wasn't allowed to eat very much, very malnutritioned. All of these things went into having my growing up. And then what happened is I turned 15, my dad divorced her, and all of a sudden I have this freedom again. And even though I had freedom and I could then watch TV and do things that regular kids did that I wasn't allowed to do for so many years because I was being controlled and manipulated, I then became aware that I can let those things go. And that's what eventually caused the pressure. It wasn't right away, but it caused the pressure for me to then go through my spiritual awakening years later, because I asked, why did this happen? But realize that stuff happens because it allows you to go deeper within yourself, to have this level of awakening and to have this level of awareness. And this is about understanding that so that we can really integrate it into our life in a new way, and we can start to feel completely different about ourselves. We can start to have this higher level of awareness, and as we have it, we will start to literally feel different about how we relate to every single person in our life. And I know that that's what's happened to me, and I see myself as a completely different way, because I realize that life is meant to, in a way, to be remembered. We're supposed to remember who we are at a deeper level. And the more we remember that, the better we feel, because we realize that all of this is temporary. Everything in life is temporary, and everything is always changing. So if you find yourself and you're in kind of a negative situation right now, remember, negative means separating, doesn't mean bad. You can learn to integrate it into your life by giving positive meaning to it, even if that means it's a learning lesson. And as you begin to do that, everything will begin to change. You will start to raise your vibrational set point, and from there, you'll find that things just get better and better. Now, I'm considering making a course on how to raise your vibrational set point, to ascend your level of consciousness. And I'm thinking of making this course. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that this is a course that I should make? I'm also thinking about, or actually right now, by the time you watch this, I have made a raise your vibration meditation that will help you to raise your vibration. Something you can listen to for absolutely free. It's in the description box below. It's an MP3. I recommend you listen to it with headphones, and that as you do it, you just follow along with it. The binaural beats, everything is made into it so that you're really able to raise your vibration and feel better about yourself. So remember, the 3 things you can do to ascend your vibration and your level of consciousness have to do with giving up all positionalities, letting go of any perspectives that aren't serving you, being aware of what those are first off, that as you learn to then, from that point of view, start to forgive, you start to let go of all the lower emotions. From there, you can start to see yourself as an extension of oneness. You can realize that as you do that, you are waking up more to who you are. You can remember that you are an immortal spiritual being living a temporary human experience, and then at the same time, what you can do is start to increase your state of being, and as you do that, you are raising your vibrational set point. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you guys haven't already, and as always, I will see you guys on the next vid. Peace, much love, and namaste.